Hello, I'm Pamela Young and this is Thrive 2030, brought to you by growthcurv. And today I have with me Eduardo Pedrosa, who is in Singapore. Eduardo is the Secretary General of the Pacific Economic Cooperation Council.
Our objective is to try and create the basis for a Pacific-wide community, and that's what we do. We try and bring the sort of the Pacific community together by working on common challenges, bringing different stakeholders together. So our membership is business, government, academia, and so on.
In your tenure, you've been with the PECC for over about 20 years. The risk profile must have changed over those years.
I mean, it's changed tremendously. I mean, if you think over the whole course of those 20 years, the issues have changed. I mean, if you go back to the early 2000s, things were extremely different. At the beginning of the 2000s, you were just beginning to be a more digital world. You went through the IT bubble, if you like. Then we went through the global financial crisis, and then we've going through now this global pandemic. One of the things that's really been of great concern to us is this rising trend towards protectionism, and that's of great concern to all of us in this region, because trade has really been the basis of economic growth in the Asia Pacific region.
Presumably, most of your member nations have done what the rest of the world has done, which is invest heavily in digital solutions to improve relationship building, servicing customers, sourcing products, all the other main means of operating and running business. Can you just talk to us about what some of the digital developments that you have been seeing?
Yeah, well, digital has really been incredibly important across, I think, the entire region. So governments will have to ask themselves, how do we make sure that children get education? So, one example would be the government of Indonesia gave out $500 million worth of phone and internet credits to make sure teachers and children could have access to the internet during this period. I mean, that's an enormous challenge.
It must be a challenge for you, being the Pacific Economic Cooperation Council, to have both China and the US in your membership, because they're not necessarily quite cooperative at the moment. How does that relationship impact on the group?
One of the great things about PECC is that we have a 40-year tradition of cooperation, and there's a very specific culture that we have in PECC. We're not government officials.
No.
It's built on 40 years of building trust amongst ourselves. We have very specific objectives. Everyone around the table believes in these norms and the culture and way of doing things. So in reality, we actually don't have these problems. We have co-chairs in PECC, so that the co-chairs, international co-chairs of PECC right now are China and the United States.
Can we just talk about Singapore for a minute? Because as you say, Singapore has a very high vaccination rate. It's 55%, is it?
Yep.
Of the 7 million, which is a good number. And I think the Singapore government has started to voice, its willingness and, keenness to open the borders and to live with the virus. Would you describe, as someone on the ground there, what does that actually mean?
I think it's been a long and interesting journey. I think the first cases of COVID were back in January. I mean, as you've lived here, so you know what it's like. It's an incredibly open city.
Yeah.
It's an open city. It's a densely populated city. So it's been fascinating to live through this. There is a realization that COVID is something that we're going to have to deal with as we move through, and that every time a cluster of cases comes along, we can't sort of lock down the whole economy. It's just not not tenable. Like it just costs, so much.